What you do is just amazing. Um, it is necessary and it's needed for the community. So thank you for that. I kind of wanted to get into the initiative that you started with the whole Black boy, Black girl rights mentorship. Can you please tell me how did this idea come to you?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much for speaking with me. And uh, yeah, I mean, the program just kind of happened organically. A few years ago, I had already had someone I was mentoring, a couple of mentees, and honestly, just folks that were coming up in the business who were asking me for advice. And the thing is, I was just coming up in the business as well, so I could only really impart the information I'd gathered so far. But what I knew from people that were asking me is that there was a need to there was a need for information. There was a need for for guidance. And all I wanted to do really is provide a pathway for these young writers or these new writers to come and make their way into the industry. You know what I mean? And if I had the network or the connections or the access to be able to help in any way, that's what I was going to provide. So initially, it was really just going to be the Black Boy Rights program because I felt like I could speak to Black girl male writers the most. But upon talking about it on like a podcast or like I think it was might have been Clubhouse, I got so many responses from Black women like, what are you talking about? Like, what about us? And at the time, I just thought, oh, do I have the bandwidth to be able to put together a program that big? And fortunately, I did, and I was like, yes, of course. Why not have the Black Boy Rights and Black Girl Rights mentorship initiative? And that's what we ended up doing. The name Black Boy Rights and Black Girl Rights itself, it's yes, it's about being creative. Yes, it's about writing, but it's also about our right to exist, right? Our right to be able to take up space. And to be able to achieve the things that we want to achieve. So there is like a slight kind of like political aspect to the name because we always have to fight for a right to do anything really. So and that really is what birthed the program, and I'm really happy for it. We're in the second year. The second round of mentees were just selected maybe a month ago and are doing very well. So yeah, I'm really proud of the program.
You were all written for Insecure, Ginny and Georgia. You've been a part of these shows. What would you have said breaking into the business was one of your greatest lessons?
Mm, what is one of my greatest lessons when breaking into the business? Some of the best pieces of advice I've ever received from mentors um, is to keep networking, but to network intentionally. Don't network just for the sake of. You want to be able to have a genuine connection with the folks that you are speaking with because um, you might end up in a writer's room with them for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And you want to be sure that you are actually enjoy that person's time, that a person's presence. You never want to be networking just for the sake of, because if anything were to come from that connection, right? It might be tinged with a bit of just kind of like, oh, like I have to do this thing, or I have to go and perform. When if you were just networking intentionally and networking with folks you genuinely enjoy being around, that wouldn't be something you'd have to deal with. You know what I mean? So that was great piece of advice. But also to keep writing. As much as you network, you have to write as much as you network, because you're only as good as your last project, and you have to stay fresh. The zeitgeist is always changing. Not that you have to change your material for the zeitgeist, but the the intention is to be able to grow and be able to evolve your writing. So always, to just to keep writing is the best piece of advice I ever got.
We know that the absence of Black control in media kind of affects us greatly. We don't see ourselves. There's nothing that we can relate to unless it's, we're on screen, we're writing behind the stage. So I was wondering, is that why it's important that for the applicants they be pre-WGA? so that you get them at that stage that it's early?
I think I wanted to get them at that early stage only because that's where most of the need is. There are so many, like, I think of like the funnel, right? And everyone's funneling into this one space, into this one industry, and wanting to write and wanting to be established writers. So many of us, people of color, are stuck at that pre-WJ level when we're not being able to cross over, meaning we're not getting staffed as high of a pace as, like, say, our other counterparts are getting staffed. Um, and it's just, but so many, as many writing jobs as it looks like, there are maybe 3 or 4 times as many writers wanting those jobs, right? And the amount of writers of color that want those jobs are stuck at that pre-WGA space. So if I can create a program to be able to help them um, um, get over that hump, then that's what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? Not to say that after a year of the program, boom, you're going to be in the WGA, but the hope is that you're getting inching closer and closer to what your goal is.
One of the things I really was interested in wanting to know, especially from you, a writer, with the program and the mentorship, should writers kind of stick to what they know and they experience, or is that okay to branch out?
Oh, it is okay to branch out. Like, it's encouraged to branch out. It almost feels as though at times people in the industry, or just people overall, don't think that writers of color are able to write anything other than their experience. So with the program, for instance, I have a writer who writes, biblical horror as, their as the genre. You know what I mean? I have writers who are doing Afrocentric, like, sci-fi. I have writers who are writing children's content. Do you know what I mean? We can live in all those genres. We can live in all those spaces. It's not as if we have to have a personal relationship with the, you know, material in order to be able to create something great. You know, we can operate in several different spaces, and it's great to be able to see that in all these writers. They're really all fantastic.
Now, one of the things that was really interesting, you have, I believe it was 829 applicants from 21 different countries. How do you narrow that down?
It was tough. It was tough. We kind of did it over, like, winter break, which really wasn't much of a break. We were reading a lot. And I employed my mentees from the 2021 class to help read the potential mentees for the 22 class, or 2022 class, in order to kind of, like, help create a community, help create a tribe. You know what I mean? Like, we're wanting them to feel involved in the process, in terms of, like, who gets to be, not necessarily gets to be a part of the program, but who is the right fit just based on their material. And it's also just a great way to divvy up all the work. So between, like, myself and, like, I say 15 others, we each had like 70 scripts or something like that, and we're able to narrow that down. We were able to narrow that 829 down to 400 and something, and then for the second round and for the third round, it was only 25 interviews.
Oh, wow.
Only
Oh,
25 interviews for the third round, and then 14 ended up being selected when the initial intention was just 12.
oh.
So that just goes to show how great of a pool all these writers are. Like, I wish I could have taken out, all of them, because they're all extremely talented. But the 14 that we chose are great, and really, proud of them, and know that they're going to go on and do amazing things.
Now you're giving out advice to other people and you created a community. I was wondering, as a writer, how does this fuel you? How does this inspire you and the projects that you go out to create?
You know what? I always try to, with everything that I do or make, I want it to be, impactful. I want it to be purposeful. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to live in spaces and create content that is of meaning. to something, whether it's about faith or about hope or about community or about marginalized people or about, you know, a social issue that's taking place, and how, that's buried in the entertainment of like what I'm, that's not buried, but nestled in the entertainment of what I'm trying to create, and with the program, I always felt as though, yes, I love being a writer. Yes, I love writing and creating content. But it's all been towards the goal of having a platform and having visibility and having access to things that allow me to help other people, that allow me to help other writers coming up in the business, just as I was helped. Um, so yeah, like it's purpose driven content is
I
always.
love it. No, what I was is the collaborative effort that your mentorship has created, and also just in general in the writer's room. How do you go about collaborating where everyone's voices is heard, and you made it to the writing room, but you still kind of feel like you're invisible because your suggestions or ideas are not being heard?
That's a really good question. I think that for myself, when I first got staffed into a room, um, I tried to be very observant of how everyone pitched, of how the room operated. I think every writer's room has its own DNA. And once you enter in that space, it's really about figuring out how it operates, what the structure is, how everyone reacts to pitches and or pitches out information, so that you are aware of what the dynamic is and how to best operate. You know what I mean? Um, there's that part of it, right? Just learning how to, like, oh, how do I exist in this room? How do I operate in this room in a way that will be additive? The other side of it is the fear of failing, the imposter syndrome that exists, all the things that keep you from opening your mouth in the room, right? Whether you're nervous, whether you don't know if your pitch will be well received, or it'll if they'll think you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? There are a lot of things that you kind of like combat once you're in the writer's room, because you might feel insecure or you might feel like you are not ready. Um, and eventually all that goes away. I mean, the imposter syndrome may not go away sometimes, depending, but like the nervousness and the insecurity goes away because you become more experienced. You learn how to pivot from a pitch. You learn how to navigate the room just based on you seeing other people do it. I'm one of those people that learn by seeing other people. And I have witnessed a lot of great pitchers, like great people, and have learned from them. And really just kind of took that with me into the next writer's room, into every writer's room that I've been in so far.
The second annual mentorship has kind of changed from the first annual, kind of lessons that you've learned that you've adapted and changed to?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, well, for the second year, we partnered with Stage 32, which is an online kind of like screenwriting education platform, one of the leading education platforms out there. And they help facilitate the application process for the second year of the program, which made the program international because I have an international base. So that's how we were able to get several applicants from several different countries. And at first, I thought it was a little daunting. I was like, "Oh, that's a lot of people," but the need is there, and I was just so encouraged by the number of writers of color from all over the world who are wanting to be in this industry, who are so creative. You know what I mean? So it's been great partnering with them. I'd say what I learned is just managing my bandwidth, because not only am I writing full time, and now am a full time showrunner, creator, producer. Thank you, creator, producer. Now I'm also managing this program. Now I'm also managing a media company. I'm kind of like in this space where I'm juggling a lot of things in the air and just trying to find the right balance. Also just work life balance as well. That's been a little tough, but we're doing it.
Wonderful. And kind of you spoke about all of the different things that you do. Could you talk about a little bit of the time management? Because that seems to be so important. We look and we see the outside of he's doing everything, but from the inside, what does that time management look like?
1 second, I have to return a call. What is the time? Okay, the time management's a little nuts right now. It's a little crazy. May have had a few panic attacks or anxiety attacks. But it's honestly truly remembering that to give yourself grace. Allow yourself some grace. I mean, the work was going to get done. It's going to get done in the time that it needs to. I'm also a believer in divine timing, and I'm also a believer in great collaborations and people that allow you the mental space and the time to create. So in regards to time management, I really try to be conscious about how to allocate time and where that goes. Sometimes that can be really difficult, and lately it has been very difficult. But I will say that I have a great partner in Jean-Elie as my co-showrunner on Send Help. We are really able to lean on each other. And, in times when, say, I'm not able to be in the edit bay, he's there diligently working with the editor while I'm, writing, 2 other projects. And he's been a fantastic partner. So it takes a great team as well, time management and a great team. Like my assistant is fantastic. He's a former alumni of the program from the 2021 program, and also through the program got representation. So he is now, has a lit agent and is doing, very well. And will go off to be a fantastic, he is already a fantastic writer. He will go off to have a great career. So it's really about having a great team with you. And my chief of programming, Ashley Aronson, for the mentorship program is fantastic. Ashley has really been dedicated to the program and has been a great, partner to me. So yeah, it's about having a great team and allocating your time as best you can.
Wonderful. I was wondering, you talked about kind of the goal of the program. What has been some of the surprise successes that may have not been the goal, but you was like, oh, we did that too?
Oh wow. Honestly, you know what it is? Giving these writers a sense that their stories are valid and that they can achieve their dreams. You know what I mean? Sometimes I get lost in what I'm trying to do with the program and just, the administrative aspect of it and like, okay, like we got these applications. Okay, we gotta read them. All right. Now let's announce the second round and the third round and who got into the program. And once these folks get into the program, there's such a joy that I didn't anticipate because it had been so long since I had experienced that same kind of like rush of, oh my God, this person enjoys my writing. Okay, I'm not doing this for nothing. Okay, I feel validated by this, second round win or this third round win or getting into the program. It's, how much hope um, I was able to give to writers who are all extremely talented, who just needed that extra nudge to know that they're on the right path. You know, that is was unexpected and really just warmed my heart because they're all really deserving.
I was wondering, we are slowly seeing the change in the writings room. We're slowly seeing different projects that represent us and the greatness of us. We're not a monolith anymore. um,
Yeah.
so I was wondering, with this mentorship, what do you say would be not necessarily the end goal, but one of the proudest moments where you can say, look, this we finally accomplished this. Do you feel like we made it, or is it always a continuous step?
I think it'll always be a continuous step. You know what I mean? I definitely want it to be have a permanent foothold in the industry, and I want to have for it to be like a kind of like a just a permanent pipeline for writers of color to like get to where they want to be, because the need will always be there. We see these reports from the NAACP, from USC, from the WGA, talking about diversity in Hollywood and talking about the lack of diversity in Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood, we've been a thing for so long. So the fact that this has always been a conversation about the lack of diversity, it will always be a conversation, and the program is meant to be there until it's no longer needed. But the thing is, I feel as though it'll always be needed. Writers of color will always need someone to champion them when others aren't, and hopefully that won't be the case later on. But as of right now, it is, and I, seek to be able to um, help make an impact in that space.
Lastly, can you please tell us where we can find Black Girl Writes, Black Boy Writes mentorship?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a website, the Black Boy Writes website, and you can also follow us on Instagram, Black Boy Writes Media on Instagram. You can also follow me on Instagram at Black Boy Writes, with like it's a period in between each letter for my personal Instagram, and on Twitter at Black Boy Writes. But yeah, please follow the website. Please, follow the journey. We're in the process of updating the site so that you're able to follow the new mentees for this 2022 class. And yeah, we're, just really excited.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking with me. I know you are a very busy person. I truly enjoyed everything that I've learned about you and the website and the program. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dana. It's a pleasure talking to you.
No problem.